Is this thing on? Welcome back to Big Mouth and fancy seeing you here in June. I'm very welcome, my friends, and especially my enemies. Come in, sit down, no touching. I don't do the touching. And hello and welcome to Monday's edition of the Doctor Who Daily on the day that Matt Smith, the 11th Doctor, I can't keep up anymore. He's the 11th Doctor. The 11th Doctor will debut on Twitter later today, dead on 7 o'clock. And we'll be talking about Vincent and the Doctor, one of the great Doctor Who episodes. And I'm going to be there for it. And then also before that, apparently, not Matt, but there'll be a live tweeting thing at 6 o'clock, I think, UK time, for that Rowan Atkinson Comic Relief Doctor Who special. I think that's what they're going to do. I haven't got a copy of that. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it for that's ridiculous. You know, the BBC should give us a copy for free. Do you know what I mean? But anyway, I'll be there for the Vincent and the Doctor watch-along, right? The watch party. But I'm not going to talk about that anymore, right? That's exciting, and I'll react to it. We'll see what's said on tomorrow's Doctor Who Daily. I'll certainly be talking about it. Right. I want to draw you an analogy. Imagine after the first Avengers film for the MCU, for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, if Kevin Feige had announced he was leaving, and then a new boss turned around and said, I don't like what Feige's done here. It's shit. I'm changing it. So everyone's looking at this guy and he's going, but look, $1 billion. This is just the beginning. Everyone's interested now. We're going to be making some real money. This is going to be the biggest film franchise ever. Don't care. The Marvel comics have always been an ever-changing universe. If I want to change, I will. And the fans will follow me, whether they like it or not. Sounds insane, doesn't it? It would have been very different now for the MCU if that happened. But thankfully, Kevin Feige stayed on. But Russell T Davies didn't. I have many opinions about that. I always felt that he had every right to leave. It's his career, it's his life. But he should have had an overview role and still an executive producer role. He still wouldn't have had to be on set or be ever present or work as hard as he was as head writer and showrunner. Now, that was a mistake from him and the BBC. Because from the moment he turned his back and Stephen Moffat came in, Stephen came in and said, right, I'm changing everything. Doctor Who is an ever-changing universe. It's fine. Different TARDIS, different Doctor, different look. The whole show is different now, right? Dramatically different. So you've just come out of the best era of Doctor Who, right? One of the best, no, let's cut the crap. It is the best era in Doctor Who history. You know, bite me, classic fans. So it is, right? So you come from the best era of Doctor Who, from Doctor Who history, right? And then you're taking away everything that people loved. Tennant, Davies, Julie Gardner, Phil Collinson. The show looks dramatically different now. You've got to get used to a new Doctor, a new companion. And the ratings did slightly fall from the beginning. And it was a slowly drop since that moment. But just imagine if Stephen Moffat thought about the Doctor Who legacy instead of his own. And I've got a lot of time and respect for Stephen. He's a genius. And he comes across as a nice man. But I'm talking about Doctor Who in general. Just imagine if Russell T Davies did keep this Godfather role I wanted him to keep. And Stephen towed the line, as he did when he was writing in the Russell T Davies era. Doctor Who would have continued. Imagine you could have had an episode with Captain Jack and River Song. Can you imagine that? Them being part of this franchise together. But no, Moffat refused to use Captain Jack once because he wasn't his creation. And this was the problem. This is the kind of the decisions that slowly killed Doctor Who and its revival. Now, the blood may have still been pumping. The heart may have been alive. But the death of the Doctor Who revival has been very slow and very painful. And it's from the moment Russell T Davies left. Now, say this to Russell T Davies, he's going to bite at you. He's going to say it's not true, to stop being negative and involve him in negative narratives, right? But it is true. It is. Because if Russell still had an overview of the franchise and had spin-offs, right? He would need a spin-off to replace Sarah Jane because Liz sadly died. And Russell felt that show couldn't be changed into anything else, which is fair enough. But Russell was a genius. Spin-offs could have been made. This franchise could have continued to be the MCU of the Doctor Who franchise. And you would have Steven and Russell running it. And Russell taking more of a back seat, being able to do other projects and live his life because he wasn't a full-time showrunner. Okay, I understand that serious TV is very hard work. And after 4 or 5 years, he wanted a rest. He could have still done that in his overview Godfather role. But that never happened. So because that never happened and that vision left, not just his vision, but Judy Gardner, Phil Collinson, that team had left. And Steven Moffat didn't keep the same two producers that Russell did. They kept on quitting on him. They weren't getting on with him. It was becoming problematic. And, you know, it's Steven or the producers. They're always going to get rid of the producers, right? But Russell T Davies, I mean, Judy Gardner was head of drama at BBC Wales. She was never going anywhere. But Phil Collinson was a great Doctor Who contributor, a really clever producer and storyteller himself, right? And they stayed there, these people. It was one team, right, that stayed together. But in the Russell T Davies, in the Steven Moffat era, that wasn't the case. But I'm not that concerned about the fact that people couldn't work with him and were walking out left, right and centre. My concern is that this show could have just stayed along the lines that Russell had created, spanning new companions, new stories, new ideas, that's fine. But the look and feel of the show remaining the same. But that didn't happen. And that is what slowly started killing off Doctor Who. And you know, Steven was around for 6 years. That's a long time. A long time. And as we could all tell, even we did the Day of the Doctor tweet-along party the other day, right? And we're all glowing about Steven and it's a good time and we remember things fondly. But we forget the bad. That this show was dying a slow death every year under Steven. It got worse and worse and worse, little by little. We've forgotten that. Now, when we compare it to what Chris Chibnall was doing, we think, wow, wish we could have him back. But at the end of the day, as I said, from the moment Russell left, there was no one working on this show or its franchise who understood what to do like Russell did. Russell took the Doctor Who franchise like a puzzle, putting it slowly together. He's a plotter. He's a tactician. He's a genius. Steven Moffat isn't that. He's a great storyteller, but Steven Moffat makes it up as he goes along, but Russell T Davies doesn't. And that's the difference. And that's how it worked. So if Russell T Davies could have had this overview and Steven Moffat could have been the head writer still, when things were becoming a bit problematic, Russell could have stepped in and said, no, you know, you're having trouble negotiating with John Barrowman, you've got an issue with him, he's coming back. I'm the real boss here. You're running the front lines and I'm the head manager, if you know what I mean. But they didn't do that. So from the moment Russell T Davies left for good, this show and this franchise was dying. The BBC even considered cancelling it. So they're the facts. And you can do as many watch parties as you want. You can try and spin the narrative. Because I know what's going to happen here. Because Emily Rossina will one day suggest that we watch one of Jodie's Doctor's episodes. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. This is what it's leading to. This is spin. This is marketing. They had a car crash at the end of the Timeless Children. And they've been trying to get us more positive. Oh, we're doing it for the lockdown. We want Doctor Who fans to be happy. We just want positivity. We don't want toxicity. We're sorry. When you wave the red rag to the bull, it's going to happen. And I repeat again how I quite enjoyed the finale. I enjoyed The Master, right? But at the end of the day, if I'm not enjoying the Doctor, what right have I got to even be watching it? Do you understand me? There are major issues in the Chris Chibnall era. There were major issues in the Steven Moffat era. Let's not forget Hell Ben, right? As great as Steven was, there were issues. And he wouldn't change for anyone. And again, it was the BBC every year trying to force him to do things the way, some things the way the fans wanted. So he'd come back the next year and say, well, I'm doing this now. It's the same thing that's happening with Chibnall. And when you have to go along those lines, you know there's a problem, right? One of these big YouTubers was talking about fans thinking they should have whatever they want. And I've spoken about this before. And he's complaining about his comments. Well, if you're going to do a video about fan entitlement, Doctor Who fan entitlement, you're waving that red flag, mate, and you're going to get problems. I've said that before. So I'm excited for tonight's watch party. I am. Maybe a little bit less excited than I was for the Moffat and Davies ones, because I think they were very exciting and important. But still, Matt Smith, Karen Gillan, that's awesome, right? Matt Smith's amazing, right? One of my favourite doctors. But at the end of the day, we must remember, when one day in the future Doctor Who is cancelled, and it will happen, whether it's now 2, 3, 5 years, it's just dying a slow, painful death. Because there's nobody, there are people like Russell T Davies who can take this again and make it a franchise and continue it. Because if Russell had the passion to remain, like Feig did, because Feig's a Marvel fan as well, don't forget. If Russell hadn't walked away, Doctor Who would be in a much brighter... Oh dear, dear, dear. Well, I'm not starting the video again. That was a sneeze. Oh, that was terrible. But, excuse me. But if Russell hadn't left all those years ago, in 2009, Doctor Who would be in a much better position. And it's not. Not just a much better position. It would be #1. Winning all the awards, like it was under Russell. We'd still have Murray Gold. Do you think Murray Gold would ever have left? No. No. And Murray Gold's exit as composer still disgusts me. He's still the best composer in the world. His music has proved that. It's so long-lasting and everlasting, right? So there's that. So you can talk to me about watch parties and positivities, but it doesn't matter. Because in the end, when it's all stripped back, we're still left with what Chris Chibnall is doing, his underdeveloped companions and Doctor, and his alt-left politics. So it's all still very troubling and sad, because under Russell T Davies, this had a bright future. And unfortunately, I can't see that future continuing for much longer. And that saddens me. Comment down below, like, share and subscribe. Sorry about the sneeze, and I'll be back tomorrow with even more Doctor Who Daily. See you again soon.